Tag TV and Tag Radio be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. It all began in 2005 from the commitment of a small group of technology executives, visionaries, and, well, dare we say, innovators. It's the Georgia Technology Summit, the flagship event of the Technology Association of Georgia that brings together C-level executives, entrepreneurs, technology professionals, and academia to celebrate and recognize Georgia's technology community. At the epicenter of this now leading technology summit in all the Southeast, Tag's Top 40, Top 10 Innovative Companies for 2013. Greetings, everyone. It's Friday, February 22nd, 2013, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. The hunt is over. Georgia's Top 40 Innovative Companies have been selected, however, yet to be named. Now, the ultimate selection process begins to choose among that top 40 a top 10 list of companies innovating technology as no others in all of Georgia. Up to the Tech Talk, a founder of Tag's Top 40 Top 10 Companies Award, and continues as the selection and judging committee chair, Dennis Zakas. Dennis is a partner with the corporate law firm of Zakas Leonard. While a partner with Am Law 100 law firms, Dennis played a major role in transactions exceeding $100 billion. He started Zakas Leonard to provide mid-market and entrepreneurial clients expertise compatible to the most prestigious corporate law practices at a reasonable price. His unique perspective results in his representing a wide range of clients, from Fortune 50 to early stage, listed in Best Lawyers in America, as well as Mergers and Acquisition Super Lawyer. He also chairs a virtual incubator that has launched and operates startups in e-commerce and Salesforce enablement. Dennis is the primary inventor in 2 patent applications. He's a member of the Tag Board of Directors, named a prior Tag Volunteer of the Year, and writes a regular blog for Tag Think and the Supporter Report on technology leadership. From how it all began to how it all works, the Georgia Technology Summit's now most respected recognition, the annual Top 40, Top 10 Innovative Company Award, with its founder and chair, attorney Dennis Zakas. Dennis, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thanks.
I think we began these conversations almost a decade ago. I certainly know this is our 8th year as far as the Georgia Technology Summit is concerned, and of course, along with that, what has slowly but methodically become one of the most prestigious recognitions as far as the technology community is concerned, and that is the Top 40 Innovative Awards that happened each year. Let's start out with maybe a little background in terms of how it all began and what your role has been and what it is today.
Well, actually, I hate to start off by correcting you, Frank, but it's going to be the 9th one. We started in 2005, and in January, that was a product of working on a new format and a new approach to putting together a large gathering of technology leaders in the state, which gave rise to the first Georgia Technology Summit in January of 2005. Atlanta had previously had other kinds of technology events, but in the wake of the dot-com bust, those events were sporadic. Tag was not as strong an organization as it had previously been at the end of the previous millennium, and I had this idea that what would be great to do would be to have a large annual event, which became the Georgia Technology Summit. So I approached the then leader of TAG, the predecessor of Tina Tino Mantella, who's the current leader, and he supported me, and eventually it was approved by the executive committee of TAG, which was operating on a skeletal basis with very little funding, and TAG was, quite frankly, not the incredible, strong organization it is today, but
right.
there were some very wise people who were steering it through a tough time. So I put together a group of people who shared the vision of creating a summit that would draw, the objective was at the time, an event that would be an almost full-day event that would draw technology participants and leaders from the entire state, and we hoped and expected to have 1,000 people. We built our theme around innovation, which continues to be the theme of the Georgia Technology Summit today. We pulled together some speakers for the event, and they were incredible speakers. We had Ted Turner, who received the Captain of Innovation Award. I think that's what we called it, as well as Michael McChesney, Jeff Rosenzweig, and Derek Smith. So we had a very solid group of speakers. We had almost 1,000 people, several hundred people, and it was an incredible success. Well, one of the things that came out of that was the Top 40, Top 10 competition. The way that the Top 40 competition came about is interesting because all of us at the time remembered, in the middle of that decade, we remembered how much fun it was during the dot-com boom to hear elevator pitches, brief statements of what companies were doing, one after the other on the stage. Lots of money was flowing back then to the tech community, and it was very exciting, and we all loved that. So that was basically the genesis of the top 10 speakers. But the top 40 speakers, the top 40 presenting companies, almost happened, I wouldn't say by happenstance, but the way that happened was that we had decided that it would be a fun thing to do to showcase as many companies as we could from the technology community, because the goal of the Technology Summit was to shine a light on the wonderful technology community that was thriving then and still is thriving in the States. So we were a little shaky on the finances when we were first putting together the top 40, since TAG hadn't been that active. Somehow we convinced the Cobb Galleria, the Cobb Center, to have the event, but we didn't really want to rent any other extra rooms for our showcase in a trade show format. So we counted the number of places that, number of tabletops that would fit in the lobby area, and it came out to be 40 tables. We said, well, wait a minute, how are we going to pick the people? Is it going to be first come, first serve? And that was the genesis of the top 40 competition. We thought, well, these 40 tabletops, these 40 presentation areas are very valuable. So the companies that get a chance to present should be the finest companies in the state. And since we had a focus on innovation, we were going to choose those companies based on how innovative they were, not based on how fundable they were or how much money a venture capitalist would give them or how large they were. And so in that way, we took the theme of the summit, which was then and has been every year, innovation, and we applied it to a practical situation, and a wonderful competition was born.
Well, it's always amazing how you can go into a deep study or a lot of research or try to identify precisely why 40 and not 30 or 50. Interesting, as it boils down, it kind of is the old story about the mother with the pot's too small or something, and she cuts her roast off, and there was a reason for it, but the reason was a logical one right from the very beginning. So obviously, with all the great innovation and creativity and visioneering, it came down to how many tables could fit into the room. Funny today, now that recognition has become so critically important. 2005, 2013. How has the competition changed over the years?
Well, one thing that's changed, of course, is that now everybody knows about the competition. So every year the competition becomes more competitive and it's more difficult to get in. Although I will say one interesting thing that also happens is we have recognized a lot of the great companies, and they keep getting greater every year, and there'd be a temptation to recycle some of those companies. And when they've had new breakthroughs and new innovations, we are happy to do it. But we just have a thriving technology community where a number of companies are getting traction and doing a great job.
Well, I'm guessing, innovation is innovation, and I think by description it's probably a breakthrough or disruptive type of an element, depending on what your perspective is. But when you think of 2005 and what was happening in technology at that point, I mean, we're talking pre-cloud, so much of the difference in terms of networks and the whole method of digitalization that was really coming of age. And now it's a case where we're talking 2013, where I'm guessing some of the criteria, as far as the formal criteria, remain relatively the same, but some of the descriptions of maybe not descriptions, but some of the perceptions of what is innovative and not, has that changed over the years?
That absolutely has changed. The other day we were looking at an application for a company that was doing some interesting things in providing broadband services. Well, in 2005, that company might have been a star based on the performance and based on the innovations. But if you think back on 2005, people were still talking about when would we get broadband that would facilitate all these wonderful things that people were promising on the horizon. So, yes, you're absolutely right. There was no real cloud computing. SaaS-based systems were just starting to gain traction. The idea of apps really wasn't a major part of the discussion. It was before the ubiquity of tablets and of smartphones. We have one company that should be in the top 40 this year that does amazing things with an app. And I'm guessing that we haven't quite finished the selection process. We're going through the last stages of the competition for the top 10, but I would be shocked if this company didn't make top 10, because what this app will do will amaze you. That concept wasn't even around back then. So a lot of what we're seeing would be predicted by Ray Kurzweil, who happens to be one of our speakers, I think the headline speaker at this year's summit, but a lot could be predicted by Moore's Law or the law of accelerating returns, I think Kurzweil calls it. But because processing power per dollar doubles every 18 months to 2 years, then there are so much more and more and more that can be done. There are also a lot of issues that arise that couldn't have been anticipated in 2005. One of our top 10 winners last year is a company with a lot of traction called AirWatch. And one of the things they do is they enable companies to control and the bring your device to work concept. You can take whatever device you want. You don't necessarily have a system that's top down from the company, but there's a way of linking into all those devices and making sure that if your device is stolen, other people can't get your confidential information. And if you need to send updates out on a wide variety of different kinds of devices, I believe they can do that. These are things that in 2005 weren't on the radar screen at all.
Would have been futuristic if talked about at all. What about, you mentioned the word devices. Do you see obviously we were talking about things like cloud, but, things like nanotechnology. You mentioned Kurzweil. I mean, certainly some of the things that are happening in biosciences, some of the things that are happening in terms of even the medical devices of one kind or another. Do you see many of those coming across the consideration as far as the judges are concerned?
We do. We see, I wouldn't say many, because on the medical device side, for example, there's the SEDMA conference that was just finished in Atlanta a couple of days ago. We often will get 2 or 3 really great companies that we will identify. For the most part, the applications come from the community, so they submit the application. The individual companies submit the applications. In some cases, we'll see a company, and there's a lot of cross-pollination in various segments of the technology community. So we'll go to a conference like SEDMA or something else and see a company we like, and we'll encourage them to apply. So usually they're going to be, I wouldn't say medical device or biotech would be a primary focus, but every year there tend to be a few companies that will apply to the top 40 that are great companies from that sector. We tend to draw an incredibly wide range of companies. A lot of going back to 2005, I think solar energy was in its infancy, but we've had as one of our winners, Suniva, which is a great solar company that has an incredible amount of traction. So you might get last year we had a company that was involved in ameliorating medical waste, addressing medical waste. We had a company that was very innovative in the way it grew lettuce in railroad cars or in tanker kind of cars, and basically had a very sophisticated system that was really software-based that minimized the amount of energy that was required to grow lettuce, and the lettuce tastes better than lettuce that has to be shipped from California, and it's very fresh, and it's organic, and it can be grown in the back of a grocery store. So there are just a wide range of companies that we'll see.
Where are we at as far as the nomination or submission process? Have we reached the deadline?
We have reached the deadline for submissions, and we're almost finished with the decision-making as to who is in the top 40 and who are the candidates for the top 10. The way we do this is we look at all the applications. We evaluate the applications in 2 respects. One is how innovative is the company. The other is how much traction does the company have. To be eligible, the company has to be Georgia-based, it has to be a technology company, and it has to be innovative. If it's a company that is not a technology company, a company that is where technology is basically in its DNA and its core, if it's not a technology company, it might be a company that benefits from technology, and that company would be showcased in the Excalibur Awards. But for us, we're a technology company. We evaluate the companies based on those 2 primary criteria, and then we go through a process where we'll look at the top 40, and we will try to identify between 15 and 20 of those companies that we think are the most innovative and exciting and successful companies in the state. Those companies are invited back to basically audition for our committee, and they'll give the same presentation that they would give if selected to be a top 10 winner. So we're at the point in the process where next week 15 to 20 companies will be coming into our offices, and they will go through an audition process. They'll give the presentation, which I neglected to say, Frank, is a 3-minute presentation about how innovative you are. The 3-minute part is very difficult because most people aren't used to speaking in 3-minute sound bites with substance. So one of the things that these companies have to wrestle with when they do their audition is, how do we tell our story in 3 minutes in a way that's meaningful, in a way that shows how innovative we are, and how and then also get it into 3 minutes and be interesting. So a lot of what happens next week is not just auditioning and evaluating, but also coaching, and that's a very important aspect. We will take companies that give their presentations. We'll tell them, how we would suggest changing that presentation to make it have more impact. And we've had several companies that have gone out of their way over the years to tell us that we were instrumental in helping them focus on what it is they really did and what made them innovative.
Now,
so we think it's a good exercise.
So, setting up the criteria, looking at the event and some of the history of the event, obviously one of the things it really boils down to are who are the judges that are making these decisions. Let's talk a little bit about that. Who are the judges?
Well, we try to get a good mix of people from the investing community, entrepreneurs, former entrepreneurs. The investors might be people who are angels, or they might be venture capitalists. So we have a wide range. We've had, this year we've had, I think, pretty much every year, Sig Mosley, who is arguably the dean of early stage investing. We've had people like Stephen Fleming from Georgia Tech most years, who is well known for his role in commercializing technologies out of tech. We've got representatives from Nora Mosley, Crofton Bender, John Wilson, who is a pretty well-known entrepreneur who was one of the founders of NanoLumens, and who just joined Paladin Ventures, a venture capitalist, has been on the committee the last couple of years. Blake Patton, who is head of ATDC. So these are, I'm not acknowledging everyone that's on the committee, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, but I just wanted to give a flavor of the types of people we have. And we've had a lot, we've had, most people usually serve on the committee for several years, and a number of them have told us that of all the competitions they've been involved in, or of all the judging they've done, that this is the most rewarding and fun committee to be on. Because, who doesn't like finding innovative companies? You don't have to make a decision to invest in them. You don't have to do anything other than really understand what they do, compare it to the rest of the marketplace, and make a decision on whether you think this is an innovative company. And it's a fun thing to focus on. Innovation that's the reason we chose it for the theme of all the summits, because innovation is probably the one thing that will, continue to generate growth in the state of Georgia.
GTS 2013, Global Commerce Revolution, Innovation in Every Interaction, March 20th at the Cobb Galleria. It all starts at 6:45 that morning. Certainly a lot of the information has already been promoted. A lot of our members and listeners will know that the confirmed speakers are like Ray Kurzweil, author, inventor, futurist. He's now the director of engineering at Google. Robert Bob Metcalf, the internet pioneer, 3Com and Ethernet. And then Matt Quinlan is the CTO of Visa. Then on top of that, we've got the one of the things that a lot of people come especially for is the Technology Hall of Fame, the annual induction. This year, Jeff Arnold, which many people would call a technology rock star as far as the local community is concerned. But then it's all topped off by the top 40, top 10 most innovative companies. One last comment, Dennis, or one last question, and that is, how would we expect, if I'm coming to it, how will I encounter the actual top 10, and will I get an opportunity to meet the top 40 themselves?
Absolutely. The top 10 present 3-minute presentations each. They will be presenting during the programming in front of the large group of over 1,000 people.
So as the run of show continues throughout the day, you bring in a certain number throughout disperse them throughout the day's presentation?
That's right. Usually 3, 3, and 4, or some combination of that. And, oh, by the way, the audience gets an opportunity to vote on the People's Choice Awards of the top 10. So that's always been a fun aspect of it, where the audience itself gets to
really
respond and express its views of the proceedings. And that's every year. And the top 40, which includes the top 10, everyone, if you recall the origins of the event, the top 40 all are presenting in the foyer, and we've decided not to change this, and we could afford to take over all of the facility, but we have a very cozy and lively area in our lobby area, because we have all 40 of the companies have tabletop presentations. So if a person wants to, the fun thing to do is to wander around, talk to people, check out the various top 40 winners, follow up with them, do business with them, get to know them. They're there the whole day, including the top 10 presenters. So there's an opportunity for the audience to engage one-on-one, not only with the other top 40 members, but also with the top 10.
Well, to all of our listeners, certainly to our members, mark your calendar. March 20th is the 2013 Georgia Technology Summit. We've talked a lot about the top 40 and also about the lineup for the run of show. Dennis, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule to join us today on Tech Talk.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much, Frank.